everyone, I'm Mona Lisa Joshi, the founder and director of Chrysanthemum Chronicles, and as promised in the group, the Facebook group page which I run on Facebook, I would reveal the prologue from the Abandoned House Horror project, for which we are taking up submissions right now. The process is going on, and the writers, many of the writers have already received the prologue in their mailbox, but I thought let's give this prologue out to many of the other writers who can also be part of this project, because I really want many of those writers who are not aware of how to submit, where to submit, and when the process ends. Most of the time writers come and ask me that is the submission process still going on. So for their convenience, I'm making this video post and giving out the prologue, and also to generate some curiosity which will help you to write down your stories. Another reason is that it will also help you to carve your story in a more better way, because if you have the proper understanding of what we as editors are expecting here in the board, and also what are the points that you can actually incorporate and take care of while writing down your stories. So without further ado, let me start with the prologue. I have titled it as Where It All Started. 1875, London. June was thrilled to be travelling for the first time to India. It was her first visit to Udaipur, Rajasthan, and she was ecstatic to see the new mansion she was about to set foot in. Before this, she had only heard stories about the richness of the place, the warmth of the people there, and about colours that were the main attraction to her. She had heard that women there wore beautiful coloured attires, which she wanted to see with her own eyes. It was her 18th had gifted her this whole mansion to her as a sign of his love for her. She was going there alone, accompanied only by a few of her handmaids, to meet her fiancé, who was already there to welcome her. Edward Davis was looking forward to meeting his sunshine, whom he wrote a letter to, of how much he had waited for this day to arrive and to be finally able to meet her. It was going to be their safe haven, a home where she would be spending the rest of her life after her marriage to Edward. The day arrived, and she reached the mansion in Udaipur after a long journey of 6 months and more. To her dismay, there was no one at the gates to welcome her. She couldn't find any staff or even see her love, Edward, anywhere. This made her uneasy and worried. The mansion didn't give her a good feeling at all. It seemed like an abandoned house in its first appearance itself. She was doubtful or not, but she needed to find her fiancé. Situated at the outskirts of the city and over a hilltop, the house seemed deserted, and June wondered why her stepfather had gifted her such a strange house. With a gloomy heart, she entered through the giant iron gates that led her to a colossal courtyard. The gates closed on their own, and the handmaids were shivering in fear, who still remained standing outside as their mistress decided not to take them inside along with her. June noticed that all the rooms on the first floor were lit, and the courtyard was lit with hundreds of earthen lamps. It seemed full of life, but not a single soul could be seen anywhere. Every nook of it was pregnant with grandeur, yet there was a sudden doom that she sensed in the air of it. Her heart was thumping beneath her soft bosoms, soaking that uncanny feeling within her. Soon she remembered she had to find Edward. Edward, Edward, where are you, my love? Don't play hide and seek with me now. It isn't funny anymore. Okay, I admit, I'm quite impressed already with all of it to say. Now come on, dear, don't scare me more. She was about to yell when all of a sudden Edward came from behind and covered her mouth and almost dragged her towards a labyrinth where it was dark as compared to the other parts of the mansion. You won't make noise after I remove my hand from your mouth, promise? Asked Edward with a few nods. June nodded too, and he slowly removed his hand. Immediately they locked their lips. It was their reunion after almost a year. Some tears too found their way out from both of their eyes. What is this all about? I don't understand. Why didn't you come to receive me? And where is all the staff? June blasted out many questions towards him. I couldn't, my love. I'm a prisoner here. So are you, from now on, he replied with a grave face. What are you saying? You are a prisoner here? But my father sent you here first. He has gifted us this mansion. He wants our happiness. June was confused with the words that came out from Edward's mouth. And what do you mean you are a prisoner here? She added. His eyes when all of a sudden she felt a wave of cool gust pass from beside her. The shivers went down and she noticed all the hair on her hands stood straight. She felt a strange fear within her heart and noticed that there was a black silhouette of a woman watching her from a little distance. June could feel it in her guts that whatever she was not a human for sure. Her feet were missing and she seemed a few inches high from the ground. June's eyes met hers behind her veiled face, which was only visible a little from the distance, and she could feel it that they were stuck upon her only. A sudden feeling of dread enveloped her, and June began to feel uneasy. She began to choke and started to lose her sense. She was about to fall down when Edward immediately pulled her inside a huge bedroom, shut the door tightly, and bolted it with heavy iron bolts. He heaved a sigh of relief and took June into his embrace. She slowly gained her consciousness, and Edward made her lie down on her back on the comfortable bed and stood beside her. My love, we are stuck here now for eternity, just like King Randhir Singh and his wife are. Edward repented by saying this and began asking her for forgiveness. Forgive me, but I couldn't possibly have lived my life without you. June, who was still not understanding much of the situation till now, kept peering at his handsome face, waiting to hear more from him. Randhir Singh was not interested in any of the prospects of the girls that his uncle Upendra Singh brought to him. One after another, he kept rejecting all the nobilities and one single hand that came for him. How could he say yes? His heart was stuck on that one woman whom he met for some brief moments and gave away his heart to. His bedchamber was filled with those beautiful eyes of that woman whose face was hidden beneath a veil that night when he met her into the darkest part of the woods. All believed she was a Dian who had cast a spell on him. Lost into the woods, he came back home when was only chanting her name and had been doing so for long after months that incident happened. He had lost his appetite, his interest in kingly affairs, and only painted day and night like an insane lover, his heart out on as much parchment he could. His virginity had never received the love of his mother. She died the night after giving birth to him. His father, King Virendra, lovelorn and in shock, couldn't take his young beloved wife's painful demise and passed away a few days after her. The orphan child became a king overnight, and this palace had seen much pessimism and misery for a long. His paternal uncle, though, took good care of his only nephew and made him grow into a strong, well-built, robust young man who was precisely made ready for any kind of warfare that he could deal with ease, and an iron heart. Less sympathy and stern heart were the lessons taught to him from childhood. But after his being lost into the woods for a few nights, he returned as a changed man. He remained confined within his room, and the only words that came from his mouth were to find that girl for him. Rakta, Rakta, where are you, my love? He would incessantly ask this question, and with every dawn he would search every nook of that jungle again and again, hoping to see her one day. He was not able to fathom that the same forest where he was lost looked different in the morning. But those nights when he was with her, it seemed different, and he couldn't find that caravan which was there in those nights where he had slept with her and made love to her every night, falling more in love with her. Raktambari was the love of his life, his woman who had oathed that in this life he wouldn't marry, see, or even touch any other woman. filling her forehead with his blood, and this promise was to be kept forever. I think I should stop here because I really don't want to give out the whole of the prologue, because that will also, like, I don't want to give out that mysterious part, and but I will give out the few guidelines that I didn't, or I must say these guidelines or these points came to my mind later, so I couldn't mention them in the website, so that's why I'm making this separate video. So I have given in the website that if you're writing it from the modern day perspective, what you can do is that you can write it as a visitor who went there, because it has now been turned into a museum, so they are taking up some challenges, that who can actually spend a night in this mansion perhaps, and how was their experience living a full whole night there. But you have to notice one thing, that I have mentioned that whoever enters the mansion doesn't leave, they become the prisoner. So what you can incorporate here is, I've also those people who have gone through the prologue, I've mentioned that the south wing is particularly haunted, and since it's a huge mansion that I've shown, you can mention some other parts of the mansion that people visit and they can go out. But if they try to take the treasure from that mansion, the whole palace or the whole mansion is full of their treasure, which no one could touch. Not a single soul could take a single penny outside, so they turn into ashes. So you can use this point if you are actually creating some gory scenes, if somebody tries to escape with the treasure, how they end up. Or you can also share it from the point of view of somebody who stayed there, could not live, but his story was passed on, and then that particular person is telling that story to some other people. So basically it's a folklore that has been traveling, and you can create that effect. Next is that you should not give name to the mansion as of at this point, because since I haven't used any name in the prologue, so if many writers are going to write for it, so if everybody starts giving a name to the mansion, it will create a huge mess. So in the end process, when I have all the submissions in my hand, I might ask you to change few points in somewhere in your story, depending upon the way it has to be adjusted with the prologue. So for now, do not give any name or any kind of do not give any name to the mansion. Then there's another thing that I would like to say, that if you are giving it a modern day perspective, you can show it that slowly that curse has been lifted, or it has faded away, because now it has become quite an old story, but she still haunts the place. So some of the people, they actually could escape from the mansion, and she has a heart for the lovers who wishes to stay there. You can create few love stories if you want, who lived there inside the mansion, but they got prisoned, or they got prisoned afterwards, they realized, and how they coped with it. And you can mention the haunting effects. You can write down about gory apparition, becoming visible to even outside the mansion. People have experienced the shrills and shrieks, and you can do such things. And for the modern day angle, I would suggest this thing only, that you use it as a museum and you're taking up a challenge, a one night challenge, or if you can come up with something else, something very innovative side, that would be a plus point, a great thing. And yes, so these are some of the points that you can incorporate and keep in your mind while writing down your stories. And basically what I'm expecting is a pure literary piece, not like flash fiction kind of stuffs. go with a very subtle flow, create a body for the story. I know you all are great writers, so I don't have to say such thing, because all of those who have so far requested for getting themselves registered for writing for this project, so I don't have to give them such points and all. But yes, I just to make this book a pure literary piece, something that people would fall in love with while reading, and they should also experience some supernatural stuffs in it also. So this is a horror project, so there needs to be horror, but again, we should not compromise on the literary part. So I'm wishing you all the very best and looking forward to your stories. And there's another good news, the deadline has been extended till 30th March till midnight. So I hope you have good enough time for writing down your stories, and it will be a beautiful journey, because when the stories will come to me, I'll go through them all, and then whatever changes, whatever amendments would be needed, I will connect with each writer personally, and then we will walk along to create this amazing book. So stay safe all and enjoy your weekend. Have lots of fun and keep writing, keep inspiring.